Today we'll look at creating a pair of secret drawers where you could hide some pretty valuable stuff. Last year when I was redecorating the study room, I had put up wallpaper on one of the sides. I used this MDF sheet here to stick paste to the wallpaper. And this sheet is now going to be the carcass for my drawers. To get a straight edge, I cut the long end of the board and then ripped it to manageable pieces with a track saw. Now, back on the table saw, I can cut all the pieces to its final dimensions. And if you haven't seen it yet, and are interested in building the sliding panel saw type table saw stand, I have a link to that in this video right here. After sanding it down, it's time to apply paint to the inside section of the drawers. I'm doing this step right now because once the drawers are fully assembled, it is going to be extremely difficult to paint the inside corners of the drawer frame. Now I have this video here all linked up that covers all the steps taken to paint on MDF. If you're interested, you can take a look at it. And now back on the build part. I marked out the positions for the screw holes, drilled out pilot holes, countersunk it, applied some glue, and used corner clamps to hold it all up together. Then I drilled a longer pilot hole and screwed it in. MDF doesn't like to be screwed in directly without a pilot hole, and it may split or crack. Using an impact driver is also not recommended. Now that the first drawer frame has been built, it's time to reflect on how this glue up and accuracy of the joints could have been improved. For this, I decided to use biscuits. Here I'm marking the layout positions of the biscuits on each of the adjoining sides. I'm using the smaller settings available on the biscuit joiner. And the reason why I decided to use these smaller zero size biscuits is to avoid any potential blowouts or telegraph. Specifically on the vertical sections as they are only 18mm thick. Here I'm trying out a test fit. And guess what, it fits perfectly well. And now it's time for the next set of glue up. The biscuits definitely helped in alignment and made the whole glue up process way less stressful. I then flush trimmed all the sides and then chamfered all the edges as well. The combination of these two now gives a really nice smooth edge. Next is filling in all the screw holes with wood filler. While I was at it, I also filled in all the joints as well with some filler. Overall, I applied the filler and sanded the edges around 3 times or so to get a reasonably good finish. Next step is making some 3-dimensional angled edge band. This involves cutting the strips first into thin pieces and then partway on the longer edge cutting it again at a 25 degrees to give that inward angled look. Next I set up my miter saw to cut in these 45-degree miters. The first cut was a rough cut and then I slowly sneaked it up until the length was perfect. These edge bands are going to be held to the frame using biscuits and glue. I cut the biscuit's locations out and carefully marked the locations on each individual edge band strips on its back. Then I applied 2 coats of this oak tinted Osmo Polyex oil and left it aside. For the drawer construction, I'm predominantly using 18mm plywood. After noting down all the measurements, I cut them all to the size on the table saw. Here, I'm laminating the exposed edge of the drawer plywood faces. And with that, all the components of the drawers are now done. Then I flush trimmed the edge band to make it all flush with the drawer faces. It's time to cut dados on the drawer sides so that we can slide in the drawer bottom during assembly. The drawer bottoms are actually leftover laminate floorboards that are 12mm thick. Since the curve of my blade is 3mm, I have to adjust my fence each time and do a few passes to get that width of 12. I then cut the drawer sides to its final depth. Here you see the dados cut for the secret drawers, which is actually a false bottom that slides away to reveal the actual drawer bottom. All the hardware, including the drawer slides and the drawer pulls, were bought from this company, ironmongerydirect.co.uk. Now, to get the exact width of the drawers, I put 2 of the slides together and cut an offcut to fill in the space in between. This is going to be the reference to calculate the width of the drawers. Now with this reference stick, I mark that position on the drawer back. The rebates on the drawer sides measures 12mm. We have to subtract that 12mm from the current reference marker. And that's your new width. I hope that all made sense. Anyways, here I'm marking the horizontal position of the drawer back that needs to be cut out so that we can slide the drawer bottoms in. Next, I'm cutting out these leftover laminate floorboards, which is going to get repurposed as drawer bottoms. Now, we are going to create mortise on the back of the drawer fronts. This is to attach the drawer sides to it. With all the mortises cut, it's time to cut the tenons on the drawer sides. Since the mortises have rounded edges, I'm roughly rounding over the edge of the tenons. Now to fit these drawer pulls, I cut a small rebate on the drawer fronts using the table saw. I just nibbled away around 2mm or so that the drawer pull fits in flush to the top. Next, on the drill press, I drilled out some pilot holes for screw fixings. I used a 3mm bit over here. To countersink these holes, I used a 12mm bit. I am using this old IKEA wardrobe with screws in as an assembly table with precise 90-degree stops. Now let's talk about the false drawer bottom on these big drawers. The way how it works is that you just slide the false bottom backwards and that will reveal the real drawer bottom inside. The design is simple. To hold the false bottom in place when closed, you have to put in a front lip so that the false bottom has got something to rest on when it's closed. That's the real drawer bottom, and you can see how it fits here. And that's the false bottom. Now the back lip serves two functions. It acts like a support for the false bottom, and it also acts as a stop for the real drawer bottom. Next, I used a 12mm dowel to plug in all the screw holes. Next is to fit the drawer handles, which is pretty straightforward with a self-centering bit. It's now time to fit the drawer slides. With all the dimensions marked in my sketchbook, I cut this rectangular offcut to act as a height template. It's easier to start installing the slides right from the top and then work your way downwards. I use this T-shaped template to give me a consistent offset from the front of the drawers. They are just two thin pieces of 18mm ply super glued at a 90 degree. There are two things to remember while installing multiple drawer slides. First, each pair of the slides has to be coplanar on either side of the drawers. Second, each individual drawer has to be exactly parallel to the ones next to each other. I found using this template and cutting off to the next height as you work your way downwards as the most cost-effective and repeatable way to install drawer slides. Though keep in mind that there are numerous other ways and jigs to help you do the same thing. Next step is fixing the drawers to the slide. After packing the bottom with some cards, I place the lowermost drawer on it and then screwed it tight one section at a time. With all the drawers fixed, it's now time to paint the unit. If you are interested, I do have a separate video on how I painted these drawers. Anyways, as you already hear, the steps involves 2 coats of MDF sealer, 2 coats of primer, denip between all coats, 2 coats of paint, and once that's dried, 2 coats of polyurethane. After attaching the drawer slides again, it's time to fix the legs. I got these oak furniture legs from IKEA, which cost around £5 for a set of 4. Real bargain, and they already come with threaded inserts and adjustable feet. It's now time to put the edge band on. I use these picture clamps to hold the corners tight. I then put the drawers face down to get some sufficient downward pressure. Installing the drawer bottoms is pretty straightforward. You just have to slide that in the dado and it will just click in. Now with the bottoms screwed in, let's take a look at the false bottom drawer. As you've seen before, the false bottom slides on that dado. When the false bottom is in its closed position, the perceived height of the drawer from outside makes it look like a real drawer bottom. But when you slide it away, you have that additional 5 cm of hidden storage depth. With that, the drawer build is now done. By the way, the channel just hit 2 million views, and if you like what I'm doing, a sub to the channel would be highly appreciated. Do let me know your thoughts on the project, like, share, and thanks for watching.